Let's transition from Illinois to the state of Iowa, where we've seen historically incredible amounts of wind energy deployment and investment with very little rate increases, a state that's proven that they can deploy renewables and protect ratepayers. And Brian, would you talk about Iowa first?
Well, I will. First of all, is there anybody here from Iowa? A few people? Okay, well, I have to admit, I'm not from Iowa. I'm working there a little bit. I work in all 4 of the states that we've been talking about. I did grow up there, so I have some familiarity of the culture. But so, if anybody from Iowa has some information they want to throw into what I'm saying, feel free to volunteer it. But Iowa is a very interesting state in that, as see, Tyler has already talked about the stuff I was going to talk about. Iowa has a renewable energy standard, but they surpassed it a long time ago, and they have continued to invest dramatically in renewable energy, almost exclusively wind energy, and they last year generated the 31% of the total energy use and total electric energy use in Iowa was generated by wind energy, which is, you know, speaking of the Clean Power Plan and all the kind of hoopla we hear about that, and the kind of the hand-wringing and the sky is falling about how if we have to do renewable energy, it's going to destroy our economy, and it's well, they just need to look at the state of Iowa, which has done tremendous things, not only generating that 31% of their electric energy with wind, but they have a huge number of wind energy jobs that they've managed to import into the state, and they see this as a real growth industry and something that's going to become an export industry for them. So you know, this is kind of the Clean Power Plan. When it gets discussed on a state-by-state basis, it's like they don't have to look beyond their borders to see where the economies are not in fact being destroyed by the states that have already done it. But Iowa has a very aggressive utility, Mid-American Utility, which is their primary investor-owned utility on wind energy. However, interestingly, Mid-American is quite hostile to solar energy. And they're kind of the big gorilla in the room in Iowa at the Iowa Utility Board. They have managed to really squash a lot of solar initiatives on an ongoing basis. The other big utility in Iowa is Alliant Energy, and they kind of follow a little bit in the footsteps of Mid-American. So Iowa's solar policies have not been or solar successes, I guess, have not been nearly as great as we've seen in the wind energy. But there still is a lot of investment going on in Iowa in solar, interestingly enough. The Iowa Energy Office was bemoaning the fact just a few years ago that they had something like 1 megawatt of solar in the entire state. And I think that now, and people from Iowa correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they're now up to 20 or 25 megawatts of solar invested in the state. So it's happening there, although that's still a very small scale. It's happening there as well. And we see some very interesting kind of anecdotes coming out of Iowa. One of the ones that Nick and I were talking about, the Luther College in Decorah, Iowa, has been a kind of a test case. They themselves have 1.3 megawatts of solar installed, and they're looking at some very aggressive future installations. Alliant Energy is their utility, and they've gotten to the point of kind of butting heads because they have their renewable energy goals that they want to meet, and the utility's posture is not conducive to them meeting those goals. It's kind of the situation that John was describing with the city of Minneapolis. Minneapolis was unable to meet their goals because the utilities weren't participating. Luther College is the same way, and so they are now looking into things like doing solar plus storage, where they are going to couple large-scale solar investment with battery storage that kind of puts the entire generation behind the meter. So the whole question of net metering and how it interacts with the utility is much less prominent because you're able to keep the actual production and consumption of that energy behind the meter. And this is really the utility's worst nightmare, and one that they have to be careful of as we move forward on these different policies. I'll sit down with that.
Thanks,